Hey, everybody, how are you? Welcome to another episode of Awaken Your Work Life, because so many of us go to work and we are not happy. We got a little happier when we were able to not have our commutes through this last pandemic.
Yeah.
But it really, Karen and I were just talking beforehand, and it's like, wow, sometimes we don't even know when we're stuck. We don't even know when we're struggling. And we just wanted to give you a little tidbit today as to like, hey, how do you do this? Like if you're confused, it's like, wow, just follow the energy. And some people go, follow the energy. What in the hell are you talking about, Joel?
What does that mean?
What does it mean? What does it mean?
Mm-hmm.
And often it's just about what's expanding and what's opening up. And even if you don't know the how or why, follow the energy. It's like, oh, that's opening up, and that may just be part of your bridge to the next right step.
Yeah. Because sometimes follow the energy, because I can hear people being like, ugh, what the heck, follow the energy. But it's like, notice where things happen with ease, where you're not pushing,
where you're in the flow,
where you, like, if you feel like, oh, here's a perfect example of push. You're on your computer and you're trying to get it to do something, and the little thing keeps thinking, it's spinning.
Yep.
And you're like, I need to get that done. And you keep trying, like you've been there for 30 minutes now trying to get it to do something. That's push.
Mm-hmm. That is push.
And you're trying to force something into happening. The other way, kind of the flow, is to get up and walk away, let it cool.
Totally.
Get up, walk away from the computer. In the background, your brain is actually still thinking about, like, why is that not working? Mm-hmm. Maybe I need to go back, turn the computer off, reboot it, try it again, but to get out of the spin of trying to force something to happen.
So that brings up a really, really valid point. So I always talk about there's the push and the pull.
Yeah.
And we have been told in all of our educational systems and all of our trainings and everything that you have to push, you have to go after it, you have to go get it, blah, blah, blah. And that's the divine masculine energy. That's the masculine energy of how we've all been trained, men or women, we've all been trained that way. And you know what? I gotta tell you, I've pushed like nobody's business in my life, and I am successful for that. But there is a ceiling to that pushing. When you don't get in the flow and when you don't follow the energy, which means just getting into the flow of what is of ease and grace, you actually create more hardship for yourself. Because it's not that you can't hit those goals and block and tackle and push and get there, but that's not actually where your true happiness is going to lie. Because you're going to get to that accomplishment and you're still not going to feel satisfied.
Yeah. And the effort. And here's the thing, don't get me wrong. I think we need to have skin in the game, right? For anything that we're doing, we need to be willing to do the quote work. So this is not like, oh, you're going to be able to go see, you should be able to sit on your sofa and make it happen. No, Julie's right about there being a tipping point where normal elbow grease becomes push. And it, you know what, in economics there's a term, and it's probably also in other industries, the law of diminishing returns. Mm-hmm. And the whole idea is there's a point after which the increase that you gain gets smaller and smaller incrementally. So you might put in the same input, same effort, but you get less and less and less out. So there is a point after which still putting in the same effort is not getting you what you want out of it. And so it happens with things like sleep. Mm-hmm. Like you might think that it makes sense to stay up all night. It doesn't, because after a while you'll be spacing out and doing these things. And the same thing's true. Like that's push. Yeah. And that's what we're talking about, is begin to notice when you're pushing in your life versus just good old fashioned effort.
Well, Yeah. It's like I talk about on the money side of things. You know, I categorize people into the poor, the debtors, the dreamers, the accumulators, and the rich but empty. You know, when you use the push energy, some people look at that as like a linear line. I've noticed it doesn't have to be a linear line at all. You can jump from one to another. But what I find is that people who use more of the push and they get to the place where fiscally they're fine. You know, they don't need to work. They work because they're passionate. But the problem is that that's why I call them rich but empty.
Yeah.
Because they have hit all those goals. They've used the push energy, but something is still missing.
Yeah.
So no matter where you are along this work life, you know, spectrum, this is why we're saying like follow your heart and the money follows. Because that way, when you get to the place where you're financially independent, you're not sitting there going, oh, this kind of feels like a hangover on some level. Like I spent all these years doing all this stuff and I've worked really hard. And for what?
Yeah. And as that relates to your work, maybe you never had it. Maybe from the beginning, you were never aligned, like who you are, your essence may have never been aligned with the work that you were doing.
Right.
And it could be task, or it could be ultimately the product or service that you're offering. But for many people, they get into something that they kind of like in the beginning. And then somewhere along the line, it becomes just automatic, that you're on automatic pilot. And the assumption is, yeah, I'll just be promoted to the next thing if that's possible. Or, oh, I just want the next thing. And often this is where you come in, it's tied to the money. Like, right. Yeah, the best way to make more money here is to get promoted to something else. And we start to lose our connection to our personal mission, you know, and that connection to our fulfillment in the work that we're doing.
Because we believe that we're supposed to be in this linear line of like that next promotion, the next upgrade, the next. And then what I find is people's spending goes up in that process.
Trying to feel better.
Really happy.
Yeah, trying to feel better.
And that extra income because you're trying to still find happiness. And it never comes from the spending. All you do is get a spending hangover.
Yeah.
And it's so tied to our work lives. And because we don't realize that maybe that job really satisfied you when you first took it and it was exciting and it fed your heart and your soul. But then when you were getting the signs along the way, you didn't really listen that it was time to go because, well, now it's kind of lucrative and now I know it's familiar and I'm comfortable and yada, yada, yada. And it's like, this is where following the energy and following the expansion, even though it may take some courage to take that next right step, this is what we're wanting to share, that it will always align. It's the new adventure. And we really have to look at life as the new adventure and that it's okay that it's a new adventure.
Yeah. And the other thing, and this may sound a little blasphemous because it doesn't the adage go, he who fails to study their history is bound to repeat it.
Yeah, totally true.
And I think that too has a limit because sometimes we look at history and we glamorize it. Like we look back and wasn't it great when I was this and I was able to do that and whatever. And that ends up making you park on the side of the road because you're so tied to a stage in your life, a historical stage, that you're missing the magic that is the rest of your life.
Right.
Right. And so for people who may be right now, if you're listening and you're kind of having a difficult time with like being in work that you're accomplished but empty, or you are not accomplished and empty, you know, and just feeling like, this sucks. Life sucks.
Yep.
I challenge you to review your personal mission. Like, what do you wish you could be doing?
Right.
What would you like to see be different in the world?
Right.
You know, who would you like most to work with? What audience would you like most to serve?
When
Like,
I always ask clients and I say, I'm like, okay, tell me in this new endeavor, in this new job, what are the people like that are in the cubicle next to you? And they're like, what? Like, because we're so used to thinking of the job functions that we want to do, we forget to think about like, what kind of personality of a boss do I want?
yeah.
What kind of people do I want to surround myself around in my office space? And we don't realize that that takes such a part of it.
Well, that's most of it. Like, honestly, I think the tasks are overrated, and I think the quality of the environment is underrated. I think people choose jobs because they think they'll really enjoy the work, which may be true. But if you fail to evaluate the quality of the environment you're working in, meaning the people, how they're treated, how is someone who requests a 2-week vacation to actually take their 2 weeks at one time? How does that play out? Are they shunned? Are they discouraged?
Are they encouraged to work the whole time they're off on their vacation because shit's
Correct.
done?
These are the kinds of things you want to know, because the tasks will not sustain you.
Yeah.
So, trying to figure out what your next work environment will be definitely includes an evaluation of the quality of the environment and the way people are treated. And if somebody has a family emergency, how's that perceived? How does the community at large think about that person because they had to leave at 4 to grab their kid to take them to the doctor? Like, all that stuff matters.
Yep.
And it means more than the spreadsheets you're going to make or the ad campaign you're going to write up. That stuff.
Yep. Totally. I totally agree. And you know what? It's fascinating to me how we don't even consider those things. We're not considering the softer stuff. I'll call them the softer things, the ancillary things. And when I have people map out, my clients, when I have them map out, like, what's your ideal work life? They always come in with the tasks, and they go in the, this is a line I've been hearing a lot lately. It's, well, in this pay scale, because, our left brain logical people have siphoned it down to, okay, well, you're at the top of your pay scale, so you can't get there unless you get a promotion. And I sit there and I go, okay, but is that what you want? Like, but so they start ingraining in their mind that they can't get a pay raise because it's not in a pay scale, and you become more of like a robot, if you will.
Yeah, that automatic pilot thing.
And I'm sitting here going, how often have some of you out there had a job, your boss was let go, but they never replaced them, and you've taken on some of those, and they say, we can't do this yet. So just as much as corporations can do that direction, they can go away from these pay scale things and sticking you in a box.
Yeah, agreed.
So I encourage those who are watching, press that envelope, because if they really value you, they will step up no matter what that box of a pay scale is. That's just the bullshit line to get you to close your mouth and fall in line.
Yeah.
And so I've heard that a lot out of people's mouths lately. It must be some human resource convention they all went to 2 years ago, and now it's like the buzzwords, And I'm like going, I challenge people, and I'm like, maybe that's the benefit of me being an entrepreneur. I've never really drank the juice of any system that's out there, but I just would challenge you that it doesn't have to be that, and then even it's almost like dating, if you will. If you're dating somebody and you're not really sure if they're, fully committed, blah, blah, go on a date with somebody else and see how much they like you.
So true.
And if they pull away, well, then that's great. Well, your work life is no different. Go interview on jobs. Go have your energy go to somewhere else, right? And you'll see how things then shift either internally or you wind up getting a great opportunity outside.
Yep. It's really like test the waters.
Yep.
And test your own perceptions.
Yep.
Challenge them.
Yep. And, you know, this week we wanted to just give you these little nuggets, little foods for thought. And by all means, next week, come and give us your questions. We still would love anyone who wants to come on as a panel, whether you're a success story or someone who wants to come in and get coaching and be on a panel with Karen and I. We are here. Please just send us a direct message. And by all means, enjoy your week. And we'll see you next week for Awaken Your Work Life. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.